So one thing you want to do is build great rapport. So people are talking about you. You're letting them know, hey, I am your option here in this marketplace, and let me know if there's anything I can do. Sell yourself. Hey, I actually have access to excess inventory. I'm a realtor, or I have a network. Or right, if you're part of an inner circle, you can let them know you're part of an inner circle. We have many properties in one location, and that's why I actually truly believe the branding should start locally first, because it's in your best interest to have a lot of properties within a specific area, because then you can then dominate that area.
Who's this? Oh, you're an entrepreneur? Oh, you're a real estate investor. Oh, you're trying to learn from those who did it. Well, come into the lab then. Put your white coat on, gloves on, notepad, and let's build, y'all.
Experiment Nation, what is going on? It is your host, Ruben Kanya of the Real Estate Experiment. Ah, my goodness, always, such a pleasure sharing insights within the experiments that we're doing in our lab, rightfully so. Why I have the white lab coat on. If you're watching this, make sure that before you even start the show, if this is your first time, if this is your third time, fifth time, 10th time, my goodness, if we have some some diehard, you know, experiment nation community members, the best thing that you can do for me as a big thank you, if you're appreciating any of this content, is to hit the subscribe button. If you are on YouTube, we are definitely trying to hit that milestone to continue to serve more people and educate. And if you're on Spotify, make sure you hit that follow. On podcasts, drop us a review, let us know how we've helped you. I recently had a gentleman let me know that his deal, by listening to the pod, again, there's a lot that I'm sure he was doing, of course, but he got some insights and recently closed on a $17,000 a month contract with an overhead of 5,000. That's a 12K a month net spread. So shout out to Will, and I'm looking forward to having him in the lab. But I want to hear about your wins, just like Will. Send your wins in, whether it's the comments, whether it's a DM. I want to hear that the information is benefiting you, if it is truly, and if you are finding value, sharing it with someone within that's close to you, whether it's a business partner, whether it's a it's you know a spouse, or whatever it might be, a friend. Share it, subscribe it. My mission is to help 10,000 plus homeowners understand the power that this can have for their respective portfolios, to be able to break through to that financial freedom, to do more of what your zone of genius allows you to do. I think we're meant to serve. We're meant to uh, work in our zone of genius, and sometimes life and work can get in the way. So I truly believe that if more people were in alignment and doing what their true calling was, the world would be a better place. So this is a unique tool that you can utilize. And what I always find fascinating is, if you own a home, whether it's a long-term rental, short-term rental, whatever the case might be, and you're able to have this education, you can then transform that exact same asset to produce a whole different other outcome, which to me is what I love about being in this lab. Okay. So, with that said, I want to go over a case study that just occurred a week before Black Friday. The reason I say that is, like, you would think that this is like a Black Friday, like, uh, uh, offer or deal, and they're fighting over it the way people are doing when they're going in person to shop. This was a real thing. And this is what happens when you have a quality product, right? So this is a deal we're working on with together with one of my mastermind students, and it came through me. And the beauty of being in the inner circle mastermind here in Georgia, if you're not part of it, is that we actually, as requests and inquiries come in, we share deals amongst ourselves, right? So this was one that came through me. Done a lot of the marketing and branding, which I go over in my 2-day boot camp, that you can do the same in your respective marketplace, which will give you an advantage, extreme advantage. And here's why. it hits three pillars, right? One is the pricing, which is critical. People always ask, what's my pricing? One is the marketing, right? How are you putting yourself out there? How you're reaching out to these relocation specialists? And another is branding. Okay. So if this is your first time listening to this episode, for a little bit of context, what we do and what we focus on, our niche is the mid-term rental insurance niche. And within that niche, the problem that we're solving, just to be very clear, because I think really good marketing and branding is understanding the problem that you solve and who your avatar is. So, who we cater to are families who are being displaced due to unforeseen circumstances, and for that reason, are working with their insurance company, and their insurance company is working with a temporary relocation company, right? And there are multiple. Now, I won't say this specific case study. I won't say which company it is by air, but you probably know I speak a lot about it, a lot of different, we work with a lot of different companies, the ALE Solutions, CRS, THD, you name it, Churchill Group. I mean, there's so many companies that we've worked with. But for the interest of their integrity, I'm not going to say which company it was. However, we do work with a lot of these companies, and it's in your best interest to do the same, because what happens is these companies, these temporary relocation companies, are working with homeowners like us who are investors who have furnished or unfurnished accommodations. And what they're doing is they're working directly with the insurance company, because your state farm, your all state, your farmers, they don't have the time to relocate families, right? They are a dedicated insurance company. That's what they do. There's multiple departments, etc. When there's a claim, they work with a specialist or special agency like an ALE Solutions, like I mentioned, like a CRS, like a THD, like a Churchill, I mean, there are so many, like My Key. There's so many out there that exist, and it's in our best interest to get ahead of it in understanding the product that we have, so that we can offer it to them, so that their clients who are displaced can have a place to stay. And they're willing to pay a premium because you're solving a big problem, right? We're talking about pet friendly. We're talking about utilities are on. We're talking about it's furnished. We're talking about, yeah, flexible extensions. Did I mention pet friendly, right? Key words that are going to allow you to land these contracts to then serve and and solve a bigger problem. When I say solve a bigger problem, I want to be super clear, because what I'm really saying when I say solve a bigger problem is that, what is the alternative, right? And so when you think about what the alternative is very expensive to everybody. The alternative might be moving a family into a Marriott with a huge suite that has a kitchen and a dining room, etc. It's not going to have a backyard, right? Maybe it will have parking included, but then there's a price with that, right? So when I say included, those are all fees that are going to get added on that the insurance company is going to have to pay. And when they look at that bill, if it's a family of 5 with 2 dogs, which is my love, I always say that because that's the quintessential kind of avatar of who we're catering, large families. It's expensive. And we're talking about, it could be well within 25 to 30K. So what would it mean for you to offer it at 15K? And even though your traditional mortgage or rental in that market is 3,000 or even 2,000, yeah, you could charge 15K and you could get away with it. And when I say get away with it, it's not doing it in a sneaky way. It's actually being able to give a discount to the insurance company, because again, the question is, what is the alternative? A motel is not acceptable, right? And there's not enough inventory. So, what is the alternative? The alternative is you're the alternative. And because you're the only maybe alternative or one of few, you can therefore charge a premium, which is technically still a discount to the insurance company with respect to the additional living expense or loss of use or coverage D that home owner has in their insurance policy, right? So every insurance policy has a loss of use coverage D, which is usually 20 to 30% of the coverage A, which is the dwelling value. And based on that is how we're able to reverse engineer the math of how we start doing our pricing. But more on that later. So let's talk about this case study that occurred, right? This past week, a week before Black Friday. And the reason I keep saying the Black Friday is because it's so certain, it's so in almost like irony, right? Because here we are a week later, people are fighting for products in stores, etc. And in this case, because we had a premium product, regardless of it being Black Friday or not, we had 2 relocation specialists, right, from the exact same company fight over a one home, the same home, and that was one of our homes, right? The home of one of my mastermind students, and the home that we kind of structured the deal together. And what was incredible about this was that they both knew they were fighting over. Now, when I say fighting over, I say that playfully, right? They weren't actually fighting over, but they were competing, right? So what that tells me is that within the company, there's even like a competitive metric. It's not like, no, you have that. So no, I have a family that I got a place, and you got a family, you got a place. May the best man, woman, or whoever win against each other, which is crazy. Because it kind of shows you that there is an incentive in-house. Now, one thing that we're going to get to the bottom of that I haven't gotten confirmation on is the way the commission structure is set across all of these companies, or some of these companies. But there is, I know, an incentive and a quota that needs to be met, whether it's weekly, monthly, quarterly. And there is competition that says, hey, Ruben, if I'm a relocation specialist, how many families did I actually place on my watch? These are metrics that they are keeping track of. So it means that there was two families that were competing. But now I want to break it down a little bit of how this came about. Let's start with branding, right? Because these are the three pillars I want to use with this case study. The branding. How did these relocation specialists even reach out to me in the first place? Well, it's the branding. So anytime a relocation specialist reaches out to me, I say, hey, like, where did you hear of us from? The reason why that question is so critical, it's important for us to constantly remeasure and assess where the branding and marketing is working. Now, here's my rule of thumb. Here's how I differentiate branding and marketing. I believe that branding is what people say when you're not in the room, right? And I believe that marketing is what you're putting out into the marketplace as to how you want to position yourself and talk about your what you have to offer as a product. But branding, remember, is what people say or when you're not in the room, which means that in this case, when I asked the relocation specialist where you heard of me from, she was like, oh, this gentleman named Sean, which is his real name, won't disclose company. So Sean, give me your information. That is key because I want to know that during coffee break, lunchtime, that they need to know that we are a temporary relocation provider for them, right? So it's very important for them to be talking about us as a viable solution in their marketplace. And each and every single one of you who are listening to this can be part of that discussion. Why? Because a lot of these companies, you can look them up on LinkedIn, do a little hack, look at these companies up on LinkedIn. There are small companies, right? Some of them 70 employees, some is 60, so even 300 is relatively small, right? For some of us who have worked corporate, I mean, some of these companies, a large companies, there's thousands of employees and there's thousands of headquarters. I shouldn't say thousands headquarters, but different companies and building that 70, 60, 50, 40. That's a small company, which means there's an opportunity for you to insert yourself from a branding perspective, because it only takes one or two or three people to talk among themselves about your brand while you're not there. And that is the effectiveness of branding. Experiment Nation, you've heard the word MTR, midterm rentals, as it is currently a hot topic and hot commodity right now because again, there has been an increase in short-term rental regulations, and there also has been, let's face it, a slowdown in what we were experiencing a couple years back when it comes to bookings. So with that said, short-term rental operators are looking for alternative solutions to tap into the midterm rental space. However, there is a sub niche of midterm rental insurance that I'm truly excited about, that I want to share with you, that the experience that we've had, the tremendous results we've been able to have, and that's the insurance midterm rental space, which is very different than your traditional midterm rentals. When you think of traditionally midterm rentals, you think of travel nurses. There is a space, midterm rental insurance space, that we've tapped in, where you need to be well connected with insurance and relocation specialists and companies and understand the right type of asset required for you to be able to help these families. What's really important that stands out the most, which you can get in what I'm about to offer you, is the understanding where to be found by these insurance companies, how to properly manage your calendar so that your listings are optimized so that they can find you, how to actually gain traction and build a relationship with these relocation insurance companies. I've put together an MTR insurance blueprint. That's MMTRRR insurance blueprint to cover these foundations after we've had success landing
very large contracts on single family homes that literally 4x what we traditionally make in long-term rentals, and also gives us peace of mind because there's less turnover and 100% occupancy, because these contracts can start anywhere from 30 days to 3 months to 8 months and range anywhere from, again, we've landed anywhere from $8,000 to $9,000 a month in per month on a single family home property, which our mortgages are typically around the 2,400 range, which then gives you a large spread of anywhere from 4 to 6K net on just one property. And this is why it's very hot right now. But people who haven't been in the lab with individuals like myself, like Jesse Vasquez and Dr. Rachel Gainsborough and Noble Crawford, don't have the foundations and don't know exactly where to start. And therefore, this is why I'm giving you guys a blueprint, the MTRR insurance blueprint. Go to the website, experimentrealestate.com, and get yourself a blueprint to completely change, or at least have a plan B if you're a short-term rental operator looking to maximize your occupancy and profitability. We'll see you on the other side.
So one thing you want to do is build great rapport, so people are talking about you. You're letting them know, hey, I am your option here in this marketplace, and let me know if there's anything I can do. Sell yourself. Hey, I actually have access to excess inventory. I'm a realtor, or I have a network. Or, right, if you're part of an inner circle, you can let them know you're part of an inner circle. We have many properties in one location. And that's why I actually truly believe the branding should start locally first, because it's in your best interest to have a lot of properties within a specific area, because then you can then dominate that area. More on that later, maybe in a separate episode. However, now we go into the, so I think the question you got to ask yourself is your brand being talked about? And when I say brand, it could even, you are your own brand. Your name is your brand, right? It doesn't have to be, oh, I got to form an LLC. It could be like such and such name, Ashley, Dan, John, Smith, Muhammad, at this specific place, right? Is the person you should connect with in that marketplace. So don't get overwhelmed. Yes, we talk about this stuff, and I do talk about branding in my marketing workshops that I do twice a month. So that's one thing I definitely want to let you guys know to tap into if you haven't already. But branding is just what problem are you solving? People need to know that, right? So that's pillar number one. Pillar number two is the marketing. So marketing is going to be key, because one of the things we talk about in how to get exposed to these opportunities, or how to get found, that's the number one question, is to make yourself available. So making yourself available is living in the databases, right? And then it's fine tuning a lot of your listings, whether it's Airbnb, Furnished Finder, etc. That's one thing, right? And then you can, when you talk about marketing, you now are talking about very specific key points, right, that will then speak to the problems that they're trying to solve. Flexible stays, furnished, fully furnished, amenities turned on. Even if it's non-furnished, let them know that it can be furnished, or the furniture maybe can be removed if you decide to do that. Flexible extensions, welcome the pets, right? Those are the key marketing words that you want to start using to speak to the problem that you can solve. In addition to that, marketing is also staying in front of the relocation companies, right? So when you're staying in front, to me, means periodically being in touch. And the way we do that is through email campaigns. And I didn't want to give a little cheat sheet, because one of the things that I do is anytime I build rapport, I want to call, because I want to get information in real time from the horse's mouth, right? From the source. So one of the things that I asked this past week was, how are you searching your properties? And one of the hacks that she told me, one of these relocation specialists, was, she's like, hey, you want to make sure that you send us your hot sheet. And I said, what's a hot sheet? And I kind of knew, but here's my thing that I realized. Anytime someone asks, do you know what this is? It's really important for you to not make an assumption that you know what something is, because people words are defined. Say, so that sounds a little bit confusing. So the way people describe things and the way they identify with things, or the way their perception of their reality could be different from yours, right? So even if you ask me what marketing means to me, it might sound different than what marketing means to you. So if I were to ask you what marketing is, you might say, well, marketing is this. And I say, well, marketing is that. And then the next person says that. So if someone asks you, do you know what marketing is? And you say, yeah, what you're saying is that you know what marketing is in your lens, from your perspective. And I think it's really, really important to never make the assumption that we know. If someone asks me, do you know anything about midterm rental insurance? It's like, I know a few things or two, but enlighten me, right? I think there's a real risk in ever thinking that you know everything and that you're an expert. And that's why I specifically position my brand around that I'm still learning constantly, right? And you should too. So anytime someone says, you do know what a hot sheet is, right? Or do you know what a hot sheet is? Or I always say, please enlighten me. Tell me more. What don't I know? No, here's why it's important. So a hot sheet, from what I know, and from my perspective, my lens, and from going straight to the source, for them is a sheet where there's multiple property details. If you have one property or if you have multiple properties, it's like a brochure. It's like a digital brochure. So she said, include your hot sheet. So I said, well, what's a hot sheet? Right. So I want to know how she describes a hot sheet, because maybe it's not a brochure, maybe it's something else, but I would associate it with the hot sheet. Okay, enough on the hot sheet. So hot sheet is like exactly what it is, right? Kind of like a digital brochure of your properties. But then I asked the question, so do I include the hot sheet or do I include it in the body of the email? She said, why not do both? And in addition to that, in the subject line, put the city, property name, city, and state of the property that you're want to promote, whether it's X amount of, whether it's midterm rentals, fully furnished, available in Atlanta, Georgia, right? That could be like ours, right? Or Utah. I don't know. I don't know why I picked Utah. Now I don't even know what I'm saying. Utah is Park City, Utah. I'm talking state. So that's very important. Okay. Property details in the subject line, in the body, and with hot sheet. Now what you've done is you increase your chances. Remember, it's not either or, right? It's not midterm rental insurance contracts or short-term rentals. It's add it to your strategy. I'm all about abundance, right? So it's not in lieu of, right? It's in addition to, okay? That's marketing pillar. So I've given you a gem right there that you can utilize. Number 3 is the pricing, right? The pricing is, as we know, super key. Now, the thing is with this case study that's fascinating. This is why I love larger homes, but at the same time, keep it. And so let me start there. Larger homes. What's a larger home for us? Our sweet spot is 4 to 5 bedroom homes. You can go all the way up to 6, 7. The reason why I like it is because I know that I can have a small family in a larger home, but I can't have a large family in a smaller home. Let me say that one more time. I can have a small family in a larger home, but I can't have a large family in a smaller home. So therefore, I want to increase my odds and chances of landing these midterm rental insurance contracts. Again, I want to increase my chances. I do not guarantee, you cannot guarantee anything, but you can certainly optimize market brand and increase your chances dramatically. And that is why I like 4 to 5 bedroom homes, because this was a 4-bedroom home, 3-bedroom home, 2,200 square foot home. And the first relocation specialist came with a family of 2. That's right, only 2. That family of 2 had a budget of $5,500 when we first started the conversation. But and again, maybe this is a good lesson learned of creating kind of a competition, whether she knew it or not, is when she walked the property, that family really liked the property. However, I had already gotten approval at $320 a day, which is essentially $9,600 dollars a month. And that other family, right? The other family was a larger family. This family of one person, right? 2 people, excuse me, had a budget of 5,500 that then got approved and escalated up to 9,000, which is crazy to me, right? Because if you put that into perspective, it means that because the product was a good product and it matched their needs and it, was exactly where they wanted to be in that zip code, etc., she was able to almost double her budget with the loss of use that family had. That's why I like these larger homes, because I can serve a family of of 2, just like we had our first contract was a family of 2 that stayed into a 5-bedroom home at $8,000 a month, right? So for me, I like that because people will ask, well, Ruben, what's the type of home that I want? Well, I want the home that will increase my chances to fit in as many different family avatars as possible. That's why I want the fence in backyard. That's why I want the master on main in case somebody can't utilize the home upstairs or downstairs, right? I want to increase my odds. So, branding, marketing, pricing, those are three very strong pillars that I believe are the foundation of midterm rental insurance industry. And this is why I specifically focus on this. Recently, we rolled out a 2-day boot camp that we're doing virtually to help you optimize, especially if you're in the short-term rental space, you're only a few tweaks away. And so, while the we ended up going with the larger family who secured the contract. One thing that was very interesting is it also showed that these two relocation specialists that came from the same company kind of worked differently in the approval process. One asked for all my information up front, even the contract in the lease, so that when the family walked the property, all that they would need to do is give us the green light and we would lock it in, and then they would send the wire in. And then the other relocation specialist instead was scheduling the walkthrough first, but then at the same time in parallel getting the approval. And so and then she had sent like a letter of intent that was saying it's not the final approval. But it was very interesting because there were two people from the exact same company competing with two different families and operating in a little bit of a different over workflow, and but still with the exact same goal and intention, which then leads back to the product. The product was the same and it solved the same issue. It's relocating a family with water damage, two families, both with water damage, willing to pay a premium to solve a bigger problem. So I want to leave you with that. Are you in a position to solve big problems? And are you in a position where your branding, your marketing, and your pricing is set? Because those are the things that you need to ask yourself to then put yourself in a position to increase your odds of landing midterm rental insurance contracts. Because I truly believe that landing the one contract can completely change the trajectory of how your property performs for the rest of the year, and sometimes can be game changing money, especially keeping in mind that the work is always going to take longer than anticipated, due to the supply chain, due to contractors, permits needing to be pulled. So when you get these profit margins, which in this case was $6,700 a month in average profit margins for my student, those are huge wins, and I'm seeing it across the board. Or will 12K a month. I mean, it's constantly. We have one property right now that they've been extending since I think June, and we're in December. 5K net a month in profit on one door. So you don't have to have 100 doors. You don't even have to have, a dozen doors. With just a few doors, right? We are just talking about this with one of my mastermind students as well. You can truly unlock the financial freedom that you're looking for. And that's why it's my duty and obligation to share as much information as I can around this topic. And that is why we're also doing the midterm rental insurance boot camp, which, if you are listening to this, depending when you're listening to this, this is obviously evergreen content. But if you're listening to this around Black Friday, we do have a special that's going out until Monday, Cyber Monday. So make sure you hop in at the price that it's at, because then it's going to go back to the regular price, which, depending when you're listening to this, you can join us any time of the month, or I should say every once a month. We do the 2-day boot camp, and my mastermind students join as well. So you can kind of get a feel of the energy, the inner circle team here. So with that said, let the experiments continue. You know, definitely hit that subscribe button. Definitely leave us a review, and I hope you're getting tons of value from this. It's such a pleasure to continue to serve in this niche. It's very fulfilling, and it's even it makes me even happier to see more people within our community being able to be a part of this, and serving more families and helping them, while also being very profitable with their investment properties. So with that said, remember, you're only one experiment away, or sometimes just one booking away. I'll let you guys take it from here. Conquer the rest of your week, Experiment Nation. Let's build, y'all.
Experiment Nation, podcasting has changed the way we operate as real estate investors ourselves, and it can do the same for you. Podcasting has been the source of the masterclasses that we get thanks to the world-class real estate investors and practitioners and specialists that come into the lab from all realms, from short-term rentals to mid-term rentals to real estate syndications to even software as a service. Owners, founders, entrepreneurs have helped enrich our experiments by giving us the education, helping us build a network, and lastly, and most importantly, a brand association to open up multiple doors for our respective businesses. If you understand the power that podcasting can have and you know that you need one for your brand, please, you can rely on our team. Investedtalent.com is my team and the team that helps this podcast, the Real Estate Experiment, become the fruition each and every single week to educate my community, build relationships on the air, and continue to build our brand. If you know that you need to do the same for your brand and you haven't pulled the trigger yet, maybe because you don't know how, our company, investedtalent.com, does the end-to-end from the time that you record to the time that it is published to even repurposing content on multiple social media platforms. That's what my team can do for you. Simply go to investedtalent.com and book a discovery call to see how my team can help you launch your podcast.